What does it take to name a brand for a market you've never stepped into? This is How the World Names, conversations with members of We Are Naming, the global network of experts shaping the future of international brand development. In this series, we explore what's wonderful and weird about the languages, cultures, and countries we represent. Hi, and welcome to How the World Names. I'm Caitlin Barrett, the U.S. partner of We Are Naming, and today I am joined by Olympia Aivazi, our partner from Greece. Hello.
Hello there. Nice to see you.
I am starting all of these interviews by just asking everyone to tell me a little bit about your naming practice. What is your naming like today?
Well, it's funny because, like many people in naming, I didn't come from a linguistics or copywriting background. I actually studied interior design, and early in my career, I worked at an auction house in London. So my foundation was really in aesthetic, storytelling, and value perception. So when I moved back to Greece in 2003, I worked in the Image and Identity Department for Athens 2004 Olympic Games, which was really a pivotal moment for me because it gave me an appreciation of how national identity, symbolism, and experience come all together to shape perception at a global level. So from there, I joined a company focused on branding and retail identity. And that's where I really began working on brand strategy. So that was long before I ever created a name. And that grounding is still at the heart of what I do today. I created my first name in 2013. And for me, it's never about finding a nice word. It's about capturing the essence of a brand, its values, its personality, and potential, and transforming into something meaningful. So I approach naming not just as a creative exercise, but as a strategic one. And every name has to carry weight. It needs to open a space in the market, tell a story, and earn trust. And I think that my background helps me navigate that space between design, storytelling, and strategy in a way that's both intuitive and considered.
So you are, to me, one of the greatest resources of information about naming in Greece. And you wrote a report called, What You Need to Know About Naming in Greece. And today we're going to talk about it. We're going to get into some of the things you put in that report, and I will link that in the show notes if people want to read that, and they should. One of the things that you say is that Greece is an inexhaustible wellspring of inspiration. And I think, coming from the US, that has been true my entire naming career. Everyone is so interested in Greek words and Greek mythology and Greek names. It's, the so much metaphor and how we frame the world, comes from a lot of Greek language. So I'm just curious if you have a thought about what it is about Greek culture specifically that made it so influential in branding and in naming.
Well, it's true that for such a small country, we are. I do agree that we are a wellspring of inspiration for naming, and I often work with clients who have no direct link to the country and are still drawn to link to Greek culture and the language. I think what makes Greek culture so global influential in branding is that it taps into some of the deepest roots of Western storytelling and meaning making. Our mythology, our philosophy, even our alphabet. These are the foundations of drama, democracy, and dialogue. So when someone uses a Greek word or reference, it can instantly signal something timeless, intelligent, and symbolic. So Greek names often carry layers of meaning. Take Nike, for example. It's just It's not just a word, it's the goddess of victory, or oracle, which in ancient Greek referred to the prophetic priestesses who channeled divine insight. So the word still resonates today as a symbol of wisdom, of vision, and foresight, qualities that are truly valuable in business, technology, and leadership. An oracle doesn't just see the future, it interprets complexity, offers guidance, and represents a bridge between the known and the unknown. So that layered significance makes it especially powerful in a brand name. It's actually one of my favorite international brand names. Um, at the same time, the sounds of the Greek language, which is with its open vowels, melodic rhythm, and strong etymology, make it a rich source for evocative and brandable words. Whether you are naming a luxury product, a wellness brand, or a tech startup, Greek does give you this blend of poetic gravitas, let's say, and sensuality. So for clients, especially those seeking names that feel elevated, meaningful, and human, Greek culture offers a toolkit that's both ancient and surprisingly modern. And because many of these myths and concepts are already globally understood, they offer instant cultural capital, even if subtly used.
So one of the things that's so funny is we all love Greek and Greece, but I think most of us don't understand it well, and this is definitely some American ignorance here. But a couple of years ago, you shared with the We Are Naming group a presentation about Greece and Greek culture, and a lot of what we're going to talk about today. And you said, "Oh, well, we don't call it Greece. We don't call ourselves Greek." Can you talk about what you call yourself and actually the Greek identity within the country?
Well, it is a paradox that has also fascinated me, and I started noticing it in various places, especially also in brand names. Like we have Hellenic Seaways, one brand name, or Greece is for lovers. So we do live in a country that is called Hellas, yet we are known worldwide as Greece. And this creates a sort of inherent identity duality. Um, and this, I think, significantly influences how people and consequently brands tell their story. On one hand, I think that this duality gives brand a unique richness to draw from. They can speak to deep cultural pride and authenticity through the word Hellas, and at the same time connect with global audiences through Greece. But it's not, of course, always easy to navigate on a brand level. What I see very often is that brands often find themselves having to decide, do we lean into the poetic, historical, and local depth of Hellas, or do we speak in a more globally familiar language of Greece? And I think that the most successful brands find a way to um, honor both sides. They don't try to resolve this tension, but they work with it. And in a way, that duality becomes their strength. It allows them to tell layered stories about heritage and reinvention, about belonging, but also about expansion. And I find this to be actually a great metaphor for the Greek brand identity itself, which is we are grounded in something ancient, but we are a nation that is always negotiating in its place in the now.
Wow, that is that is beautiful. Um, I wanna talk a little bit more about, the choices that brands make when they're naming their businesses. And you mentioned there's two dominant paths, that it's often family names and nature references. And what do you make of that and what that says about, Greek business naming culture?
Well, it's something I come across every day, and in Greece we do see these two dominant naming paths, especially among more traditional businesses. One is using the family name, and the other is drawing from nature, particularly the elements that define the Greek landscape: the sun, the sea, stone, the wind. So these choices aren't just stylistic for us; they reflect something much deeper about our business culture and identity. Using a founder's name is about legacy. Obviously, it reflects the fact that many Greek businesses are family run. They are still family run, and they are passed down through generations. And there's a deep emotional investment in continuity and reputation. So their name is kind of a personal guarantee. This is who we are, and we stand behind it. Even when businesses modernize or scale up, we have many examples in Greece for that. It can be very hard for owners to let go of their name because it holds their history, pride, and a sense of personal authorship, the founder's name. And on the other hand, naming after natural elements, which is also a huge in Greece. It speaks to our strong relationship with the land and the sea. Greece's physical beauty, the light, the islands, its rawness, is part of our national identity, and businesses often want to capture that essence. Especially in hospitality, in food and wellness, these names evoke a feeling of purity, rootedness, and authenticity. So they become shorthand of what you think about Greece and why you love Greece without even having been here. But it's what I find very interesting about these naming paths, the family and nature, is that they are looking backwards in a way, for me at least. I think they emphasize where the brand comes from and not necessarily where it's going. And that's why we're seeing newer brands challenge this model, bringing in humor, hybrid language, or more abstract concepts to reflect a more fluid, global, and forward thinking identity. But even those new brands are still, in a sense, in dialogue with the old in Greece. That's what makes the naming landscape here so layered and alive, and also quite challenging for us.
So you mentioned, there's these traditional paths, these accepted paths, and that's a lot of that's true in a lot of markets. We name for the founder, we name for familiar, beautiful metaphors in nature, but what we find when going down those routes is it's hard to differentiate with them. And in your report, you talk about reclaiming words that had negative connotations, and that kind of becoming a trend. Can you talk about that and maybe how that's being received by Greek consumers?
Well, yes, I started thinking about that when I was preparing the presentation, and I do think it's one of the most fascinating shifts, this trend of reclaiming Greek words that once had negative or maybe cheeky connotations and reimagining them in a branding context. A great example is Manari, a modern taverna named after a word that literally means young lamb, but in everyday speech can also be flirtatiously used, something like hot stuff. So it's a bit playful, a bit provocative, and really very clever. Um, what motivates, I think, this trend is a new wave of confidence and irony among younger Greek entrepreneurs. So they are less interested in the polished, respectable, heritage-driven, let's say, naming conventions of the past, and more interested in using humor, surprise, and cultural subversion to stand out and connect with their audience. So it's a generational shift in attitude from relevance to reinvention. These names play with language rather than obey. They reflect a more open, expressive, and less formal view of the Greek identity. And I think that Greek consumers, especially urban and younger ones, are really receptive to these names. They spark their curiosity, they spark conversation, and also they create an emotional connection with the brand. They create a sense of belonging. So I think it's more than just wordplay. It signals a broader shift towards authenticity, risk taking, and cultural self awareness in how brands present themselves today in Greece.
I just want to point to 2 examples because they made me laugh that I love, like, these would be funny here, but I love that they're Greek brands. Jesus Crust, which was a pizza restaurant, is that
Yes.
right? And Son
Uh,
of a Beach. And we
yes.
just I love that that's the kind of, like, funny name that's making it out there. I'm sure there I'm sure joke names in Greek as well, like, right? It's not just English jokey names
Well,
making it.
no, they do. They are English names, and this is I think that Jesus Christ is an artisanal bakery. It's actually my local bakery, and I love it. It's a really nice shop and nice people as well. But I think that these names are really clever. They do make you laugh, but they do challenge here whether Greek speakers, especially older or more traditional
Mm,
audiences, will understand the play of words and whether
interesting.
they can embrace the brand. So, and the reason for this is in Greece, you have to understand what they mean, Jesus Christ or Son of a Beach. But if you don't speak English well, then you won't get the name and can feel confusing or alienating but having said that, uh, Greek consumers are generally very fluent in English, especially in urban centers, and they often love this kind of hybridity in names. So no, I think the key is knowing your audience and your context. These are very specific businesses. They have a cosmopolitan audience, and they do succeed in feeling really modern.
So you end the report talking about naming for a Greek brand requires sensitivity to cultural nuance and long term strategy. What are some of those nuances that outsiders, looking to enter the Greek market might overlook?
I think that Greece is a culture with a very strong sense of identity. And naming in Greece requires more than just creativity, it requires cultural fluency. And this is because language here is so interwoven with our identity, regional, familial, historical, even our religious identity. Many Greeks still celebrate their name day instead of their birthday. Family names carry legacies. Place names are tied to pride and memory. So a name isn't just a functional label here. It's a kind of a cultural imprint, let's say. And because the Greek language also itself hasn't changed dramatically over the centuries, there's a living link between ancient formal and everyday language. A single word here might evoke mythology, politics, and even street slang all at once. So that creates a much more layered and potentially loaded naming landscape. And what I find also working with our team in We Are Naming is that let's say the US or the UK, where there's more linguistic playfulness and less collective sensitivity around personal names or cultural symbols. So, all countries where branding has long been globalized and decoupled from heritage. But in Greece, language is very emotional. So, um, if you are an outsider or even a Greek creative pushing boundaries, you have to be very tuned into that and very careful.
So, given all of this, I would love to know what is your maybe favorite or maybe to you the most iconic Greek name that really like captures the spirit of great naming in Greece?
Well, actually, it's a name we've discussed together in the past. It's Faye, the yogurt company, uh, because we were talking that it is very difficult for you to pronounce it. People don't know how to pronounce it, so abroad on their packaging there are instructions of how to pronounce the word. But I do like this name a lot. It's actually an acronym. Uh, it's the name of the people who own the company, Philippou Brothers Milk Industry. It's the acronym, but also it's an imperative meaning to eat. Eat. It says
Oh,
to you, eat. So I think it's a really really successful name. I've been thinking a lot what is my favorite Greek name, and I think this one. Okay, it's a very very established brand in Greece and abroad, but I do think it's a very clever name.
I think that's a great example because it breaks rules. Like it's not a name that at least in U.S. English, we were able to pronounce intuitively, but it's become a household name. Most people know Faye, and I don't even know if it says on the package anymore how to pronounce it. Maybe we all know, or maybe they just got other things to communicate. Okay, so we're gonna play a game. I speak the fewest languages in the entire We Are Naming group. All of you speak at least two, if not more. It is to my great shame. But we're going to have fun with that. I have asked you to prepare a statement in your language, and I'm going to guess based on zero functional knowledge what you have just said to me. So, Olympia, will you read me the statement that you have prepared or just say it?
Okay. So, Caitlin, ευχαριστώ πολύ για σήμερα. Κάνει πολύ ζέστη και πάω να κάνω μια βουτιά.
Okay, I'm going to stop for gasoline and then I'm going to change the economy. Is that what you just said to me? What
I
did you
said,
actually say?
Caitlin, thank you very much. It's really hot and I'm going for a swim.
Oh, I love that. I love it. I wish I would have just guessed based on context clues. Well, Olympia, thank you so much. This was such a fun conversation. I always love getting to talk to you about Greece in general and what you've got going on in your specific naming life. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for listening. How the World Names is produced by me, Caitlin Barrett. Music is by Alex Kulik. Subscribe to our newsletter at wearenaming.substack.com and submit a question for a future episode. If you'd like to partner with us on a global naming project, visit wearenaming.com to find out more.